Please welcome past President Bill Graziano.
Thank you. Thank you and welcome. Bienvenido. Willkommen. Ni hao. Or just plain welcome for those of us who only speak English. I'm thrilled to see you all here in Charlotte for this, our 15th community gathering of SQL Server professionals and business intelligence professionals. From first-timers to alumni, MVPs, speakers, bloggers, Microsoft engineers, and our friends from around the globe watching us live on PASS TV, thank you for joining us at PASS Summit 2013. I'd like to start by introducing you to the PASS board. The executive committee includes myself, Douglas McDowell, Executive Vice President of Finance, Thomas LaRock, Vice President of Marketing, and Rushab Mehta, immediate PASS President. Your directors at large are Rob Farley, SQL Saturday Events, Adam Jorgensen, Programs, Denise McInerney, Virtual Chapters, James Rowland Jones, Global Growth, Wendy Pastrick, Chapters, and Sri Sridharan, Volunteers. Not quite done yet. Just give me a second. Our founding partner liaisons and fellow board members include Rick Balesta and Neil Buckwalter from CA, and Jennifer Moser and Olivia Matrat from Microsoft. Please reach out to any of us during the summit with ideas, comments, or questions. We've arranged a board Q&A on Friday, starting at 12:30 in Ballroom C. Please come by and talk to us. We'd like to meet as many of you as possible and understand how PASS can serve you better. PASS is much more than this summit you're attending. We work hard all year round to bring the value of peer-based learning to SQL Server professionals. Although what we do as a community is much more important than any set of numbers could ever reflect, nothing makes us happier than to see thousands of DBAs, developers, and business intelligence professionals participating locally or virtually to connect, share, and learn. The community events and activities listed here add up to over 700,000 hours of technical training delivered in our most recent fiscal year. This number is inspiring on so many levels. First, most of this training is available absolutely free. Check out the SQLpass.org website to tap into this wealth of education. Second, our speakers, our event organizers, our chapter leaders all volunteer their time to provide this information. I think it's amazing that so many people volunteer so much of their time to help their peers. Let's give it up for these volunteers. And that's what I'd like to focus on this morning, our volunteers, those who help make this community so vibrant and unique. Many of these volunteers organize and run SQL Saturday events. We've put together a quick video using Power BI that highlights the impact of these volunteer-run events on the SQL Server community. Let's roll the video.
SQL Saturday was started in Florida in 2007 by Andy Warren, Brian Knight, and Steve Jones. These free one-day SQL Server events were held in Orlando, Tampa, and then Jacksonville. The word started spreading, and soon other volunteers jumped on the SQL Saturday bandwagon throughout the U.S. 2011 saw many firsts. SQL Saturday moved across the pond, holding its first event outside North America in Lisbon, Portugal. The first SQL Saturday event in Africa took place in Johannesburg. And SQL Saturday BI Edition made its first appearance in Tampa. LATAM didn't want to miss out on the fun and snagged the coveted number 100 event in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Ireland got in on the action in 2012 with its first SQL Saturday in Dublin. And later that year, Atlanta hosted the biggest SQL Saturday ever with over 500 attendees. This free one-day SQL Server event has seen incredible growth around the world. Thank you to all the volunteer organizers and their committees. So many countries around the world have hosted a Sequel Saturday event. We hope to keep adding more to the list. Now let's return to where it all started in the Southeast and head back to Past Summit 2013.
I want to give a big thanks to Dandy, Stacia, and Julie for their help with that power video. Once again, the magic of volunteer help. My own journey as a past volunteer is what brought me to this stage in front of you today. My first experience with PASS was with a local chapter in Kansas City when I attended a meeting. I later came to Summit, got inspired, and became the leader of that chapter. I then volunteered for the program committee and then became the program committee manager. I was elected to the board, later chosen to serve on the executive committee, and now I stand in front of you today. This year's Passion Award winner has a similar history of volunteering with PASS. The Passion Award is presented to a PASS community member who has shown exemplary service and commitment to the PASS organization by inspiring the community. And now, drum roll please, I'd like to introduce you to this year's Passion Award winner. Please join me in congratulating Amy Lewis. Amy has been a PASS volunteer for more than 5 years. For the past 2 years, she served as co-manager of PASS programs for both the Summit and Business Analytics Conference. As a former leader of the PASS BI virtual chapter, she enlisted speakers from around the world to offer webinars spanning several time zones. Amy is also active in the Women Technology virtual chapter, leads the Arizona PASS chapter, and has spearheaded the Phoenix Sequel Saturday for the past 2 years. And in addition, at Summit, she served as a Summit ambassador, a mentor to first-time attendees, led Birds of a Feather table. Amy was recently elected to the PASS Board of Directors for the 2014-2015 terms. Please join me in congratulating Amy Lewis. Thank you. Thank you. It's really hard to highlight only one individual volunteer. We had so many great submissions for the Passion Award, we would be remiss if we did not highlight a very deserving honorable mention to this award. Ryan Adams, I think you're out there, stand up. Ryan is a regional mentor. He leads the Performance Virtual Chapter, is a director of programs for the North Texas User Group, was an instrumental member of the Sequel Rally in Dallas, and served on the 2013 Nominations Committee. Ryan, thanks so much for all that you do. Now I'd like to bring your attention to our outstanding volunteer program. This program identifies members of the community who deserve special recognition for their volunteering efforts. Submissions can be sent through anytime and are reviewed on the last day of each month. Check out sequelpass.org for more information. I encourage all of you to try and nominate someone to show your appreciation of their effort and dedication. Here are this year's outstanding volunteer recipients. Here's a snapshot of all our past volunteers. Can I ask everyone in the audience who's ever volunteered their time for PASS or a PASS event to please stand up? Chapter leaders, virtual chapter leaders, speakers, event organizers, if you help run a chapter, please stand up. Thank you all so very much for all that you do. We very much appreciate your commitment, your hard work, and your passion. I have an ask for all of you who just stood up and for anyone else who wishes to volunteer for PASS. Our volunteer portfolio team, led by Sri Sridharan, has been hard at work creating a volunteer database. You can officially sign up through your MyPass profile on SQLPass.org. Even if you volunteered for Pass previously, we need you to sign up in order to capture your volunteering preferences. We'll be blasting out volunteer opportunities based on those preferences every 3 to 4 weeks. So please sign up, and while you're at it, please update your membership profile. Our exhibit hall partners are key members of the community and instrumental in our ability to provide all the great resources, content, and events to the community all year round. We urge each and every one of you to take time to meet our sponsors and exhibitors and test drive their solutions in the exhibit hall and at tonight's exhibitor reception. I want to give a special thank you to Microsoft and our platinum sponsors, Dell Software and Cisco, for their continued dedication and support of this community. There's so much more going on, so much to do at Pass Summit, it's hard to take advantage of everything we offer. But I'm going to challenge you to try. First off, we're all here to learn. You'll find the usual outstanding content and expert speakers. Our live summit website and mobile program app will contain the latest session schedules. The SQL Server Clinic is in room 219 and is staffed with the best and brightest minds from SQL CSS and the Azure Cat team. They'll help you work through any technical issues. You can easily spot them wearing their neon green shirts. I hope many of you take advantage of the certification training available here at Summit. The team from Microsoft is based over in the Westin Hotel. Check out the program guide for more details. If you want to stay involved year-round, check out the Community Zone located down the grand staircase to the right. The chapter luncheon is also happening today. If you're interested in participating with fellow SQL Server professionals at the local level, I encourage you to attend. Please refer to table maps in the dining hall entrance area to find the chapter nearest you. And please don't forget to fill out your session evaluations. This year they are all online. Fill them out using the mobile program guide app or find the link on the Attendee Zone page on the Summit website. I encourage you to take advantage of social media during the conference. The Twitter hashtags to follow are SQL Pass and Summit 13. And of course, the best part of this morning is yet to come. We're pleased to have Microsoft keynote speaker Quentin Clark, the Corporate Vice President of the Data Platform Group, here with us today. Quentin will be taking us through the roadmap ahead for the Microsoft Data Platform. It's going to be a fantastic week. Thank you all for being here and for your ongoing support. I look forward to meeting and talking to as many of you as possible in the coming days. Thank you very much.
Please welcome Microsoft Corporate Vice President Quentin Clark.
Good morning. There we go, very good. It's always exciting to come back to Pass. Coming to Pass is a little like coming home. As a native son of North Carolina, it's actually good to be home literally, but coming back to Pass is always like coming back to your family. Right? Our customers, our partners, this community is an incredible part of what it means to be part of the SQL Server team. Which leads me really to first starting with a thank you. We want to thank you, everyone in this audience, everyone watching online, our entire community of professionals and customers and partners that help make SQL Server what it is today. As you saw in the intro video, the momentum of our business is incredible. SQL Server 2012 was the most quickly adopted database in our history, which probably means in the world's history. It is true that today, more customers, more businesses are solving their relational database problems with SQL Server than any other product on the planet. Yeah, that's right. I'll take that. And it is obviously because of you, right? Everything that we have done, everything that we do is about helping you push the boundaries of what's possible for your business. And so I'm really excited to be here today to first say thank you. Over the last few years at Pass, we've talked a lot about our journey together on what it's going to mean to embrace the cloud and a bunch of new trends like hardware, natural language, and other things that are going on in our industry. And we've spoken about projects that were still speculative, that we didn't know exactly what we're going to do yet. And we've been listening carefully to what you've been saying. And you've wanted us to talk about how we're delivering a complete data platform, to put the story together into an end-to-end, continuous set of solutions that allow you to go and do great work back in your businesses. So today's talk is all about listening to you. Let me begin by giving a little bit of an analogy, a comparison to the past. If people remember back in the late 90s, remember the dot-com before the bubble burst and all this good stuff, right? There was this excitement around, oh my gosh, retail is going to die, right? Remember this? There would be the press would have these both in the tech industry and in business industry. There would be these press articles about how retail is over because e-commerce showed up, right? You could sell things on the internet. Why would anyone walk to a store when you could just buy something from the internet, right? But what we learned, of course, was that the stable state, what happened in that industry was that these things came together. And whether it's at Best Buy or Home Depot or back in my current hometown, Costco or Nordstrom's, all of the best consumer experiences now are because there is a platform, so to say, for you as the consumer to build on that transcends that boundary. Right? It means you can do things like figure out what you want, get it ordered, and go pick it up at the Best Buy. You can shop at Nordstrom's, they don't have your size, it gets shipped to you. You can get something shipped to you, and then you can return it back at the store. It became one integrated whole, not a choice, right? So too do we have the opportunity to embrace that same thought when it comes to the effect of cloud computing, the effect of all these changes in our industry onto how we work and think every day. Our on-prem solutions, the data we have there, the applications, the business process, none of that is going away. Our cloud solutions, interestingly, are going to offer new ways to take advantage of all the investments and all the excellent work that's been done. So it is the case that these things, too, are coming together into one continuous platform. It's not just about a choice of hybrid. You can run your VM here, you can run your VM there. All those things are true. It's about the kinds of solutions that happen when you put your head in the frame of it's just one platform, what can be done. And this involves things like doing backups from on-prem products into Azure or enrolling on-prem data into your Power BI solutions through 365. It is looking at that thing as one continuous platform, which is where we're all really going. And it is that thought which will allow us to together push the boundaries. The boundaries are everywhere. The boundaries in performance, the boundaries in scale, the boundaries in capability, the boundaries in agility. The boundaries are out there, the boundaries of cost. The boundaries are out there, and we together are going to push those boundaries. Fundamentally, Microsoft is here to help you push the boundaries of what's possible for your business. Over the last year, we've been doing a lot of really good work. One of the things that we heard from you over the last couple passes was, hey, we've talked a lot about what's coming. Help me understand how it all comes together. Help me understand how it's one continuous platform. Today's keynote, we're only going to talk about products that are either in GA or already in preview, where GA is, of course, at some point several months away, which will leave a little nebulous. But so everything is eminently available. You'll be able to download, try things, get to work on anything that we talk about in today's keynote. So we are actually wrapping up some of the early chapters we started to write over the last couple years as we've been going on this journey to the cloud. This year we've been busy delivering. A significant investment in HTML5 in our BI suite so that it integrates with Office 365 deeply and allows us to really get to the reach and access. New capabilities in the BI suite. In Windows Azure, new capabilities came with infrastructure as a service, which opened up a whole new set of scenarios for us to offer you. We've been working, of course, on our Hadoop thing in Azure, and we've also been listening to what it means to do a great job in Windows Azure SQL database. On the SQL Server side, significantly we shipped Parallel Data Warehouse 2.0 in the spring, which brought forward a whole bunch of new advancements in the in-memory space. And then we've also been delivering on our continued promise of excellence in our service packs. And we also introduced SQL Server 2014. So if you remember, on a stage like this one, but a couple thousand miles away, we introduced the in-memory transactional work at PASS a year ago. At Tech in North America in June, we gave the next release a name, SQL Server 2014, and we introduced the first CTP of it. Today, I'm really happy to announce that SQL Server 2014 is in CTP 2. For the uninitiated, what that means is, if they repeat patterns from the past, this is probably public, and it's probably the final production-ready CTP. Those things are true today about CTP2. If everything, I'll take that. If everything's gone well backstage, the links are actually live right now. And I'll see a bunch of laptops open up and all this. Easy. Wait till after the keynote. I promise paying attention will be worth it. But if everything went well, the links are live. You'll be able to download it today. And we're looking forward to that. Again, if you know our process, on an airplane ride, we're kind of lining things up and getting into that final approach, right? So we're really looking now to the feedback and the validation that the work we've done is right for you. So today we're going to talk about all those boundaries. With the introduction of SQL Server 2014, we're able to articulate the depth of what it means to embrace in-memory for real and how we're changing and pushing all of those boundaries around what's possible in databases. There are boundaries in terms of cost and agility and flexibility and HA and disaster recovery solutions. We're going to push those boundaries. There's challenges around what it means to fundamentally reinvent the application model on the modern platform as a service world. We're pushing those boundaries. There's boundaries around what kind of data, what volumes of data, how to get the value back out of it. We're pushing those boundaries. And there are boundaries around how to ensure that every information worker is empowered with the information they need to do better in their work, to do better in their jobs. BI is not just for the high priests in IT or in the business. It needs to be in the hands of everyone who can make a difference for the business. How are we empowering each and every one of them? That is a boundary we're also pushing. So let's first talk about in-memory. And I've been getting a lot of coaching on exactly how to phrase all this. So I'll be careful. We have a competitor, I'll leave nameless, who was on stage a couple weeks ago. Well, actually, then not on stage. But they were on stage at one point a couple weeks ago. And they introduced their first in-memory work that supports the DW snare. It's a columnar compressed in-memory data structure. We're so proud of them. Isn't that good work, right? How long have we had that? Since 2012. How long have we been in production with it? Over 2 years. SQL Server 2014 takes that work forward. Whoops. I'll get to that in a second. SQL Server 2014 takes all that work and advances it forward. Right? We have the updatable column index. It's coming in SQL Server 2014, where you get not only just additional performance gains than we had in SQL Server 2012, but you also gain all the compression benefits out of having it be the only source of the data because of the updatable column store work. And incredible advancements. We're already light years ahead on a technology that our competitors are just getting around to announcing. But it wasn't enough. We have customers like Sven here at TPP who says, hey, we need transactional help too. Latency and throughput are incredibly important to our applications. It's not just about the data warehouse. And this is why a year ago we introduced the Hackathon project. Our in-memory OLTP engine, now in production CTP today, advances the state of the technology by introducing a set of new data structures that are part of SQL Server. We're not asking you to go rebuild your application. We're not asking you to go buy a separate product. We're not saying that the current skill sets you have are not relevant. They're completely relevant. By building all of our work into our products as opposed to having separate outboard products, we're empowering every one of you to identify and work in your applications and take advantage of it to its maximum. Even in SQL Server 2012, one of the most gratifying things we heard as the release was being deployed was things like a customer coming up and saying, it's just amazing. I just install, upgrade the product. I went into SSMS. I configured this index to be columnar, and all of a sudden things just got incredibly faster. It's that kind of experience we're trying to enable you across all of the workloads by really delivering on breakthrough performance in transaction processing and in data warehousing, all in the database, and as well as the work we've been doing in Analytics Server, for the Vertipack work we've put in Analytics Server, and all the way out into Excel. Remember this? Power Pivot and Excel started our in-memory journey by empowering every end user to manipulate literally millions and millions of records at the speed of thought. So enough about me talking about it. I'd like to introduce Tracy Doherty to come up and give us a full tour of everything we're talking about. Tracy. So before we begin, I'll just introduce Tracy as he is a guy at the helm of SQL Server 2014. So you can come tackle him later if you have any questions.
All right. So it's actually super exciting. Good morning, everybody. It's exciting to show you the investments that we've done and the culmination of where we're going with it. And the best way to show the improvements that we've done, and particularly in memory, is to show you an application and really see the results of what happens. And so what you see in front of you probably looks quite a bit different than a database guy coming up and showing you an app. But in this case, we actually are showing a marketplace application, much like Microsoft has marketplace applications, much like some of our competitors. But we wanted to take a real application and show you what the impacts of our in-memory solutions can do. So this one is all about selling games, called Fabricom. It's actually a simulator. So this is what the user would see, then we'd have a back view so we could actually simulate what the user experience is. To highlight this, the system is loaded with 1 million users, and every time I hit something, it's simulating 20,000 people doing that same action at that time, just to give you a sense for the system.
Like a test framework.
Test framework, exactly. And so we'll pick a game here. We'll pick the basketball game. And right away, if you notice on the bottom, this is your typical thing that says recommendations of what people would do that were looking for that game. If you look here closely, that took 6 seconds to do that. Not ideal, and then it's under the load we have. Then if I want to purchase this game, we're going through this process, and it's going to take us about 4 seconds to do that. So for those of you in the back of the room, I'll practice my Zoom It skills. And you can see these times that come in. The Zoom It skills, nice.
Yeah. We should just zoom it all keynote long, and I'll just get applause.
So now on the back end, we actually track some things here. On the right top is the throughput, and that directly correlates to our speed of purchases. It's an OLTP system. The second one is our recommendation latency, how long it takes for that. And the third one we'll get to at the very end. And so let's speed this up. 4 seconds is not good. 6 seconds is not good. And we'll first go through and we'll convert the table to an in-memory table.
So this is the same database, just SQL Server 2014, and you're running some piece of T-SQL to convert it over.
Exactly, exactly. And there you see we get a 10x improvement, no hardware change, no application change. In fact, I'll show you exactly what we did do. We just converted, we dropped the table, created the table with the new parameter here, a memory optimized equal to on, okay? And that's all that we did to get that improvement. Now the next thing we're going to do here is we've got a super complicated, and I'll show you it in a minute as well. For a recommendation, we're going to convert our stored procedure to a natively compiled stored procedure. And you'll see this update in a minute. While that's doing that, keep an eye on that dial. On the left-hand side here is the stored procedure. Now this is a thing that took about 6 or 7 seconds before, now takes less than a second. We get 11x improvement. Again, another big improvement. Now to give you a sense of the stored proc, I'll just slide this for you guys a little bit. There's about 400 dimensions in the stored procedure to figure that out for the recommendation list. So it's very, very complicated. Okay, so now let's go back. Let's go back and see what the customer experience is going to be. So now it's important to note 4 seconds to purchase, 6 seconds for recommendations. I'm going to now pick the boxing game. You get this almost instantaneous, 0.7 seconds. And then let's buy the game, which took 4 seconds before, instantaneous. It's just wicked fast when you go through that. Okay? So now let's go back to the beginning, the hot list. And this is what your favorites are, and you'd want customers to purchase what's hot. Well, I just simulated 20,000 purchases of each one of these games. You would expect this to show up on this page. But if you remember in the beginning, I said, hey, there's this bottom dial that says, how long did it take us to figure out the hot list? There's a bunch of data that we have to go through in our data warehouse and our purchasing side. And if you look on the bottom right-hand corner, it takes about 26 minutes to do this processing. Well, you guys know as well as I do, if you have something that takes 26 minutes, you run that once a day, late in the evening when your system's unloaded. Customer doesn't really care about that. You've just got an inaccurate hot list. So what we're going to do is use our in-memory data warehouse and column store, which is for 2014 updatable. We're going to update that. That'll take a fraction to time to go through to show you the improvement. If we come over here, basically we're adding a new index, which you can see is our clustered column store index. And that's the technique that we're using to get that justification. This is going to finish in just a minute. Again, remember, this took about 26 minutes before. Got a 61x improvement, and then now it's going to take less than a minute. Now, if it's less than a minute, I can do this, every 5 minutes if I want. I can do it every hour if I want. So let's go back to the user interaction. Let's update this. And here you'll see the boxing and the basketball game that I purchased. This thing has been updated within the last minute, and it's live. Now, all of this technology goes back to Quentin's point. It's built into SQL. If I had you remember 3 things from this, and 3 things only, it's built into SQL. You get to use your existing apps. There's no new hardware. And last, I guess there's 4. It's wicked fast.
Wicked fast. Thanks, Tracy.
Thanks.
Remember Sven at TPP, they have an application called System 1, which documents appointments and medications and prescriptions and doctor interactions, that kind of stuff. They have a user requirement, which is 250 milliseconds for their doctor to call up patient records, basically, that are also obviously up to date. 250 milliseconds is actually an interesting number because it's about the latency that a human being's willing to tolerate in a user activity, right? So opening up a folder or double-clicking on a file or something like that, right? So that it has to be basically instantaneous as far as a human processes it, access to these records. You can understand why that's important, right? You go in a hospital, something's going on, your history is kind of usually important, right? So they were able to get these incredible changes in latency and overall throughput, which gives them headroom and everything else, just by using their existing application on their existing hardware, just using SQL Server 2014 in its current state. So these are the kinds of changes that are empowering people to really push those boundaries. So we talked about in-memory. SQL Server is light years ahead of any of our competitors in memory. By building it into the product, making those choices early, by investing in the research. In fact, Dr. DeWitt, who will be doing a talk tomorrow, will be talking a lot about in-depth on Hackathon and how it's put together and how it works. And he was involved in the very earliest work that we were doing to explore how to take advantage of all these new trends. And then by delivering a complete solution. For the information worker in Excel, do analytics, the analytics server, to data warehousing, to transaction processing, the entire range of what you need. We have the products are here, and they're in production. That leads to the other boundary around, building great systems. You also need to have great operations, right? The boundaries of the cost and complexity for availability and true disaster recovery, true cross-continental even disaster recovery is another boundary that they're having to push. James here, talked to us, and it looks like he's a little stressed out about reducing disaster recovery risk. You can understand what he looks like, right? At the end of a day where you had a SAN failure, you've been pulling out hard drives, reconfiguring networking gear, whatever it is that went wrong back there, you're at that point knee deep into it. We've been doing the work to ensure that those boundaries also open up for you as well. And it starts even with Always On in SQL Server 2012. Always On, if you remember, gave you all the agility to have local, regional, and then global HA configurations and solutions in its availability groups. We pushed that forward by as we introduced the VM roles in Windows Azure, configuring and using a SQL Server instance in an Azure VM and enrolling that in availability group is now supported directly out of the product's tools. So you can go into your availability group and get that stood up and get that enrolled just turnkey. We're pushing that forward even by ensuring that there's also great backup solutions so that you can back up into Azure and take advantage of investments we've made in truly globalized infrastructure. Think about it. There's only a couple of companies on the planet that have first-party needs, things the scale of Xbox Live or Skype or Office 365 or Bing. There's only a handful of companies in the world that are naturally pushed towards building out infrastructure across the planet. By offering all these integrated hybrid capabilities, we let you take advantage of the investments we've had to make for all of Microsoft. So we have backup solutions that are integrated into the products. And the last thing is changing even what it means to integrate between an on-premise database system and Azure. And we'll get more to that one in a second. One of the things we've heard from you loud and clear is to not leave the old products behind. We now have a few products that are in supported release, 2005, 2008, 2008 R2, 2012, and 2014 is right around the corner. One of the things we've done, one of the things I'm really happy to announce is tools to support backup for all the versions of SQL Server and support. Yeah, I'll take that too. So these tools provide you encrypted, automated backup solutions across all those versions. And they'll back up databases right into Azure Storage. So let's go ahead and dig into that, and Tracy will come back and show us all of that.
Show us that. All right, so couple things as a reminder, just in our whole strategy on this. Last year at PASS, we showed always-on secondaries going to the cloud. And so we're not going to show you that again this year, but that's been out there for a year and running. What we do want to go through is our backup to Azure strategy that we've incorporated, and it's, as Quentin said, it's baked into 2014. I'll show you that, and also some of our prior releases. And rather than talk about it in large detail, let's just show it.
Yeah.
So we'll go to the demo. And all I've got here is, again, SQL 14, standard SQL. We'll go to a 2014 database. Let me just show you backup. And don't worry, for those in the back, I will master zoom it again. And basically, similar UI to in the past, but notice we've got a new thing here that says URL or disk. And that's our part to take it to the cloud. Now, in this case, I've already pre-named it 2014 Fabricam snapshot. This is using the same database system that I showed you the demo earlier. And we'll put in the SQL credential. But then, here's the new thing, and I want to make a point of this, is we do listen, right? We've been asked, how long we've been asked? A long time for...
As long as I've been in this job.
So for encryption support, and we've added it in 2014, and in fact, all of our backup offerings this time around. So, and let's go ahead and we'll pick the more secure option. We'll pick the certificate. By the way, the certificate is stored on premise, your local machine, so you can always get to it. And then let's master this, and we'll go ahead and back that up. And so right now we're taking an image of that, backing it up to Azure Storage, and there we go. Now if I come over here, I'll zoom in to you again. We've brought the management of the cloud here locally to NSMS as well. So if I refresh this, you'll get to see the new snapshot there, and that's in Azure itself. So you get it locally, and it's up in the cloud. Now you look at it here, and you probably say, what are these other things? Fabricon managed with the great usable names that we've got right behind it. And what that is a new feature that we've added to SQL 14, which we call managed backup. And so this, for the first time, we actually have intelligence in SQL to determine when a database is changed enough in order to do the backup automatically for you. And it's got a whole set of logic. There's some things you can tune and walk through. And so if
we do that in part so that we can optimize how much networking and storage costs in Azure. Right?
Exactly. And here it just gives you a quick sense of it. This shows where it's going. You can specify how many retention days you want to keep. Encryption, again, is supported in that. So, and the way to trigger that is I've got to change the database. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to touch 10,000 rows. And that'll take just a bit. We finished that. Now if I come back over here, you'll see here 3848 was the last one. So let me refresh that. There we go.
There it is.
0558, automatic. I didn't force the backup. It triggered it based upon the changes to the system automatically for you for the reasons that you mentioned. Okay?
That's great.
So now I want to go into this one other point Quentin mentioned before. How many of you in here have applications certified, running, you depend on 2008 and 2005?
That's
Okay.
a lot.
If you see my view, it's a lot, right? And so you probably sometimes get tired of us coming into these things and saying, hey, let's show you the latest and greatest, the new things, and you go home and you're like, what do I do? You know, we do have the thing that he just announced of launching this download for older systems. And so what I've done here in the bottom is a 2008. If you're familiar with the number, you'll know that that's a 2008 system. And we have the free download that allows you to do backups of those systems into the cloud as well. And so I've already configured this, but I'm going to walk you through it. And I've got to because the screens are a little small, let me optimize this for everybody. And basically what we do is you install it on these older systems, and you specify the directory path and the file types that you want to capture. Whoop. The storage location in Azure and the credentials, and then the type of encryption and compression that you want. So you do that. You install that on the system, and then when you go to your backups, it just works. Again, we're not touching anything in the older releases, but if I go through here, and you'll see that, if I do a backup, same thing. Let's do the log. Back that up. And again, this is a 2008 system. No changes to it. We're successful. Now let's come back over here to our storage. And there are the 2008 backups of the system. Same place in Azure. In fact, if you want to manage this from Azure, you can do that as well. So I'm just brought up to Azure portal, and you'll be able to see the exact same things. And there's a key point to this is we purposely made it for if you're an expert in SSMS and you want to do it on premise, you can manage the cloud from there.
Uh-oh. Pay no attention to that.
Pay no attention to that.
Trust us, it's in Azure.
You're gonna trust me. You see the same exact thing, and you can manage it from Azure as well.
Oh, it looks like it's rendering now.
Okay.
Temporary glitch backstage. And then you got to navigate back in. Yeah. So while he's doing that, that whole spectrum, right? Availability group integration, backup for all the products, encrypted, automated. Huge tremendous value, but there's actually a whole other scenario that the team came up with. And it's interesting because I didn't even know they were working on it. And then I get this check-in mail, which I had to read twice to understand.
Yep. This is, the easiest way I can describe it is if you think about video streaming today. You can watch videos on your PC and the data gets streamed to you, but it's not really stored there locally. We've effectively designed the same thing for SQL where you can actually have your data in the cloud and yet all your computation local and processed accordingly. And in fact, the demo that I've showed you, the two demos that we showed you today, is incorporated that way. All of the OLTP data, and you'll see it down here on the bottom left, was local on the D drive. All of the log data was local on the E drive, but all of the data warehousing data, which produced the favorites and recommendations, was in the cloud.
This is the thing they were now updating every 5 minutes, taking less than a minute.
Exactly. And so for those, if you can't see it back here, you'll see, and you're familiar with this, there was a structure, there's where it's located. So if you go back, the way to think about it this way, everything that you see on this page here was effectively streamed for the cloud. And so think about that for a minute. That's a very, very different way of processing. And I don't pretend to come up and say, I understand every single scenario of how this should be used or not used. It's all about the flexibility of deciding what you want in the cloud and what you want local. And by the way, the same thing, if you go back to what I was showing before of our in-memory tables, same thing. You can choose some to be in memory, some not to be. With the stored procs, the same way. Some in memory, some not. So it's completely up to you, and the flexibility goes along with that.
Great. Thanks, Tracy. Nice job.
Thank you.
So that last scenario, get your mind around that, right? What you end up with is effectively a database that has all of your on-prem configuration control and low latency to the application, all that stuff, because the database server is on-prem. It's in your data center. But with basically an infinite hard drive that's being run by Azure. Again, taking advantage of all the investments we make in making sure that that is a globally available piece of infrastructure. So that clearly, pushes those boundaries. If we remember James, right, at Buffalo Hospital Supply, who was in need of better availability solutions, they wanted to reduce risk, right, and ensure better SLAs, better RPOs and RTOs for their database solutions on their critical applications that deal with supply chain management. By deploying always-on secondaries in Azure, they will increase their confidence, lower their risk, and then better serve their customers in the event of some disaster event, right, some emergency event within their infrastructure. It's those kinds of solutions that are allowing customers to accelerate and meet and exceed the needs of their business. The operational boundaries clearly being pushed, right? The other boundaries being pushed is not just the operational side, but is on the development side as well. Doug at MYOB, he talked about, hey, our cloud-based app is mission critical. They've architected what is effectively a next generation solution on Azure DB, on Windows Azure SQL databases, Azure DB. And as that application has become successful and scaled, they need to make sure that it has all the mission critical capabilities they've come to know and expect in the traditional SQL Server product. Here we've been doing a lot of work. Azure DB is globally scaled. I don't even remember now because it constantly is evolving. The number of data centers we're in, the scale of number of machines we have, the number of continents we're on. It is incredibly widely deployed. The number of database instances that are under Azure DB's management is staggering, simply staggering. And ensuring incredibly high availability and performance guarantees for all those databases is a journey that we've been on to ensure excellence in this new platform as a service. One of the things that's necessary for that is in these new modern applications, it turns out there's a mix of how the databases are used. Some of them are some form of user data. And some of them are application configuration. So things like logins or deployment logic and these kinds of things. And so that mix of usage means that there's actually different SLAs that they want to have guarantees for in the overall solution, the architecture for the solution. At MYOB, they're an Australian-based business management solution SaaS offering. They got millions of business owners are their clients. And they wanted to re-architect their decades-old solution and modernize it into the cloud and truly make it into a SaaS offering. Incredibly rapid growing business for them. They're using a mix of web and business and then premium and preview to solve their critical architectural perspective. Web and business is being used in the thousands of databases that support the individual clients, right? So they have many individual clients within any single database that's shredded across thousands of databases and deployed worldwide. And they're using premium, a smaller number of premium, to handle the critical application operations like the concurrent customer logins. They have thousands of concurrent customer logins that happen literally all day long. And so using premium as a way to guarantee that the resources are available and that the SLAs are solid for that kind of activity. So by combining these two tiers, they get mission critical where they need it, and they get incredibly good cost where they have incredibly great scale. So the design point around what even PaaS is, whether it's the database as a service or things that are coming together like HD Insights in Azure, it is a different approach. It is a different design point. And we together are working on how that's going to help modern applications push all sorts of boundaries. But all that data becomes information that could be very valuable. And so there is another boundary to push around having access to and being able to process and get value from literally all the information in a business. And sometimes the information isn't even within the business's control. It may come from outside. Luis here at C Barcelona said, hey, we need it to be easier to deal with big data. Not just a matter of supporting Hadoop and creating an offering that people can put together, but making it much more turnkey. We're doing this with Windows Azure HD Insight. You take your data, you put it into Azure Storage, and you can do HD Insight processing, Hadoop processing over any of that data. The value of this, of course, is that you get all of Azure's resiliency and its storage infrastructure, and then you get a bunch of flexibility in the kind of work you can do to process that information. We partner with a company called Hortonworks on our Hadoop work. By doing this, we have Apache trunk standard versions of Hadoop in the entire Windows ecosystem. When it comes to running Hadoop on Windows, we stand behind Hortonworks' HTTP offering on Windows, which is, again, an Apache true version of a Hadoop distribution. We stand behind that, and we have customers that are deploying on Windows Hadoop solutions today. In HD Insight, we're taking that partnership and we're taking that work, and we're staying it up as a cloud service to give people the elasticity, the flexibility, and the processing scale on demand for the kinds of solutions they need, independent even of how much data they have. All of that work is currently in preview, and we have customers that are also in production on that. In the data warehousing side, so big data is not just the Hadoop managed semi-structured, unstructured data, but it's also in the relational side. On the relational side, data warehousing is a new role we've supported in VMs for Windows Azure, and we have customers that are able to go in, turn on the VM, and turnkey have a DW optimally configured database, and literally in a matter of under a minute. The other work we've done in the database you learned about in terms of our in-memory work. Our in-memory column work has transformed the scalability and performance of Parallel Data Warehouse in its 2.0 release. The other notable feature in PDW 2.0 is Polybase. A year ago, we spent a lot of time demoing Polybase and showing what it's all about, but effectively, it allows you to build logical databases over a combination of your relational and your Hadoop data, and then query against that as though it were one gigantic database. Dr. DeWitt spent his talk diving into the details of how Polybase was put together and where that's going. We have customers who are able to solve unique problems now because of the insights that they can gain by letting this data all converge together. MEC is one such customer. They are a global media agency, ad buys and planning and strategic planning, that kind of thing. They need better insight on online behavior to better serve their customers who are going through these analysis and trying to figure out the best ways to reach their customers. They built a new digital platform in PDW. Because of what they've gained from this in terms of performance, it has transformed how they think about the value of this information. Their data load times have gone from being days to being an hour. Their query times has gone from being hours to being minutes, in some cases even seconds. And that alone has changed how they think about how they can access that data. It's no longer just a matter of batch processing for nightly runs. It really has changed it to be, what is the thought of the day? What is the question that we want to be able to ask and get answers to change how we think about the information can tell us. It's also, of course, giving them incredible headroom. It's PDW as a scalable infrastructure can support up to an exabyte of data on the relational side, and of course access huge data sets on the Hadoop side through Polybase as well. If we remember Luis at City of Barcelona, they had a huge big data opportunity. They had an effort to transform their city services through capturing and new analytics from new signals that are processed through HDI or HD Insight infrastructure. We have a video that talks about what that's all about. Can we roll the video, please?
Barcelona is an old city. It was founded by Romans more than 20 centuries ago. We are really proud of our traditions, our innovation. The City Protocol Society is a worldwide initiative to provide open standards to manage the transformation of cities. Barcelona employs more than 40,000 people, offering services from social, cultural, maintenance of the city, and so on. To drive all of these services in an efficient way, you need information. Big data offers the opportunity to improve quality of life and to improve also the development of economical activities. La Marseille is a festival of festivals. In 5 days, we have 2 million people interacting in the city.
Around the city festival, the citizens are producing a lot of data. We use all the Microsoft Big Data tools. We use HD Insight services to capture, manage, and process all this complex information. We use SQL Server in order to transform data into insights.
With Microsoft Cloud OS Vision, we had found the opportunity to move from data processing to data services. Using social network information and mobile apps, you know more precisely the needs of the citizens.
When we detect some pattern that we have analyzed in this festival, the City Council can provide the best services to the citizens.
One of the problems in the big cities like Barcelona is transportation. So we follow the tracking of the buses, but also we follow the tracking of other transportation like bison. Processing the data, we know that we can distribute bicycles in a different way in order to connect with other transportations. That means people are using bikes in a more sustainable thinking. In the future, we are planning to have thousands and thousands of sensors in the city. We have to design our internal services for that kind of information. Today, we assume that computing in the cloud is the best option because you have the space you need in the moment you need. If both citizens and civil servants use the same information, we can go together to better solutions. Barcelona really wants to develop open standards to manage the cities. It's a worldwide initiative, and Barcelona has been leading from the beginning.
An interesting observation from that video is they talked about how they believe they're an information services entity, right? A municipality, a city, thinks themselves as primarily being in the business of information. And that is the meme that's behind pushing the boundaries on insights, right? More and more when I talk to customers, they recognize that foundationally they're an information company. Yes, they have assets, whether it's global distribution of transport or a chain of grocery stores or hotels or whatever it is. But to maximize the ability to compete in today's world, at the heart of it, they're an information company. But in order to get the value of that, in order to be able to compete in that way, you have to get things down to insights. You have to be able to figure out the data can and is trying to tell you. Juno here at MedAssets, hey, we need better visibility across the organization. It's not just enough to have a handful of people have the tools and the access. We really need it to scale literally to everybody. Our goal in the space of BI is to literally inform billions of people, right? To provide every business the opportunity to reach out to their customers, have them have the best access to information to improve their experiences, and of course to empower all of their employees to allow them to make day-to-day decisions that are empowered by the value of all the information that is being managed in this new generation. Of course, we start this with all the great work we've done in PowerPiv and PowerView, and we extend on to PowerMap. You saw PowerMap actually in the video that Bill showed earlier this morning towards the end of his talk. These new visualizations are part of how people share and tell those stories, right? It's not enough to have the insight. You have to be able to communicate it to the person next to you, communicate to the people around you, communicate to the people who are able to affect the outcomes. Power Query and the data catalog are a mechanism for helping people do just that and produce information sets and visualizations and models that are much more enriched. With Power Query, you can reach out, find information sets that are relevant, build on each other's work, go to the corporate catalog and find the person a couple offices down and build on their work, find data sources that are outside the company, and add into the models ways of understanding how the information composes to get better insights. We're not just pushing the boundaries on finding and making information more accessible, we're making it more accessible to people. Power BI Q&A, which is also something we introduced on this stage in years past, is all about empowering every knowledge worker out there to have access to insights and information without being BI experts, right? Everyone can ask a question. Everyone can ask a question, and Power BI Q&A can answer those questions based on the facts and the data and models that are put together that help power the enterprise. Everyone can ask a question. In fact, every insight starts with a question. Every change in business starts with what is, or how is, or why is. And Power BI Q&A helps people engage with their data in a way that starts with a question. All that's put together in Power BI sites as part of 365. We made massive investments in HTML5 expressions of all of our BI work so that we're there in 365 in that form, and we can project out basically to anywhere as a result. That empowers everyone on any kind of device, and it empowers all these sharing scenarios around all this insights. One thing for me to talk about, another thing to show, I'd like to invite Kamal to come up, give us a full tour. Kamal.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks, Quentin.
So Kamal here leads has been for a long time leading our strategy in BI, and we have him to thank for all the great work that's been coming together.
Or you can blame me, actually. All right. So, Quentin just talked a bunch of things. So there's data, there's big data, and there's Skype data. Skype is an enormous online service. 350 million users a day. They gather about 35 terabytes of data a day. And to make sense of this data, they of course use our data stack, all the things that Quentin talked about, and you saw Tracy and all these things, and our BI tool. That's what they use to make sense of all this information. So what I have here now is Excel 2013, and I want to just walk you through what a typical Skype analyst might do with the data and how they get their information and insights there. So typically start off in Power Query. And Power Query, as Quentin just talked about, is a way to get data together and really mash it up and look at it. And it allows you to get data from all kinds of sources. You can see here it's from various kinds of locations. You have databases, including HD Insight, which you talked about. So before we jump into this, one thing to clarify. The data that we'll show in this demo is not the real Skype data. It's very similar in terms of workflow, scale, the kinds of things, the tools you're working with. But for reasons of privacy, we actually respect the privacy of our users, unlike other companies out there. And competitive reasons, we don't want those companies to find out what we're doing. So because they have so much data, they typically start by landing it in HD Insight. And as simple as just going in and connecting to HD Insight, our Hadoop store in Azure.
And this is Power Q&A, or Power Query.
This is Power Query. And I'll just go in and type my location. And I connect to my HD Insight store in Azure. And here I just literally, it's a file system. I can see all my files in HDFS. I pick this particular one. And what you see out here is that it's actually fairly difficult to make sense of. It's sort of a
JSON object, right?
It's a JSON object. And Power Query allows me to very simply just go in and transform it into a JSON that I can work with. And I can now see these nested records. Just click on this and explode the nested records out. And as simple as that, in just a few clicks, I went from HD Insight for this JSON records to a structured set of data, columns of data that I can work with now. And these are in the right types and right form that I can just go and work with. Very, very simple, going from big data to structured work that I can work with right here. If I had to do this previously, I would have gone to FTP, Telnet, all the kinds of things that many of you here are pretty familiar with. But for a business guy, for a regular business person, this would have been just nearly impossible.
Well, then you had to crack open a JSON
right.
somehow. Yep.
Anyway, so get this data, we landed in Excel. Now, a typical thing that a business person wants to do is to take this data that is inside their system and mash it up with data that's not in the system. Typically, things like demographics, they want to find out broadband usage maybe. In our scenario, what we want to do is take data about population, because we want to figure out calls per capita, which countries, which in the ratio of populations and calls are ones that you should target, and maybe based on that make some business decisions. So again, I can go to Power Query, and Power Query allows me to search. I can really do a search for the data that I need, and just by typing in a term, I can, what I'm used to doing, finding the data that I need. In this particular case, I'm going to do population, by country, and I already have it done before, and I do a search.
So you have this thought in terms of looking at your call volume data to say, hey, does the population of the country matter?
That's right.
What you had to do previously is figure out where that even lives on the web, some government website somewhere, and then maybe you get an HTML table that, then what would you do, right? But here you just,
it's
you
right
go and you
there.
search and it's right here.
It's right there. And using the power of the Bing data corpus, and we can go off and look at sites like Wikipedia and just scrape the data. We just do it for you, all the hard work of finding it, find that table of data. Just as you go over, we hover, and you can see the data instantly visible to you and available to go work with. So I'll go in and pick this data.
That looks good.
And I get essentially population take this
table that I had before, which I got from,
Bring them together.
and bring them together. Now again, something that most users would find complex, right? The business users.
Oh, I can write a join for you for that.
You could write a join for me for that, but I wouldn't trust your join though. The gauntlet's been thrown.
Review time's over, what can I tell you?
So, so I can just go into literally click and do merge. And the merge here allows me to take my table that I had for my query that I got from Hadoop and HD Insight and really merge it with this information that I got from the web. And as simple as picking the columns that are joined together in this case, I take the two country columns, which are related, and the system automatically figures out that there is a relationship here, and I got 57 rows that are matched. I say, okay.
You'd trust me to do that, wouldn't you?
I would.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's meant for business users, so that's what it is. So here we are, and I got myself the information that I wanted, and I have the entire two tables merged together, and I just chose to pick up just the population data in this case, and I have now the information here. And I can add in the per capita calculation that we talked about, and literally just go in and say calls divided by population, which turns out to be calls per capita. And just to make it a point that we understand that's what it is, we'll rename the column to be calls per capita. That's it.
So everything you've done here in Power Query, teasing apart the JSON object and all this work is all repeatable, right? Because we build M expressions that we can then reapply.
Literally, you can go back to any step at any time and repeat it and have the whole thing available. Not only that, but this entire process that I built and the results of it are available not just for me to work with, but I can share this. I can share this with my organization because I have a corporate catalog, a catalog that's for my organization. And I can go and take this information, calls per capita, and just go and share it in my corporate catalog. So now anytime someone else walks in and they want to work with the same kind of information, they don't have to redo all the steps that I went to. It's just there available for them and easy to use and build on top of. So very, very simple. Simple to get started, simple to find the data, simple to go transform it, and then simple to share and leverage across the entire organization.
That's great.
Right? Okay. Now, once I have this data that I've got from various places, I landed inside a model. Right here you can see I landed inside a data model, which allows me, and I won't go through all these steps right now, but it allows me to go work with Power Pivot. I can go in and use this model to go and slice and dice and create interesting calculations on it. I can go and work on it with Power View and land it in visualizations that I can go and work with. The same model works for all these things. Not only does it work for working in Excel, but I can use this model now to go off and do visualizations on any kind of device that I want. So what I have here to show you is various devices. The first one that I have is a Surface. Actually, it's a Surface 2 with a magnesium back, right? Yeah, it's okay.
All right, I'll take that.
And the two little clicks, you can go back and forth, right? And here it is. It works on Surface. You click, and it's able to go off and do its query and come back. And it just works there. The other thing I have, if you now wish to go off and really sort of lower your level a little bit and settle for something less, is this Fruity device that I've got. And you can work on that, and has a native app for that. And then really now, bottom of the barrel, we also have an Android thingy that you can use. And if you're really desperate, we even have a Chromebook that it runs on, and it's interactive and it works properly.
It's the same model, native and HTML5 projected.
That's right.
Available for everybody.
And the reason it works on these, it's HTML5, and it just works for everybody. Now, having said that, it works in Excel. You can do all these nice things. The simplicity from going from big data down to being able to work with all this information to your devices. But then we have more than that. In Power BI, as Quentin mentioned, we introduce Q&A. Q&A just allows you to just walk up to this box and ask a question in the natural language that makes sense to you. So this is different. This is different than anything else out there. We're not slicing and dicing. We're just walking up and saying something like, total calls. And as I type it, instantly, the system sees my question and responds to it. Not only that, it tells me things like, hey, I think you meant this is the query you wanted. I can restate it for you so you understand how to ask me next time. So now I can have a dialogue, a conversation with the system. I can type in things, for example, like calls per capita by country. And as I do that, the system not only understands what I typed, but it instantly knows the right visualizations and comes back, right?
Apparently we really like Estonia.
Yeah, and it turns out, no, it's demo data, but still there's a little trivia in there. Estonia is really sort of high calls per capita. Anybody know why Estonia is so important in this particular case? Yeah. That's right, it's the birthplace of Skype. If I had a t-shirt, I would throw it to you. I don't. It's a virtual t-shirt. Take it. But it is. And it's using the same data model that I built before in Excel with Power Query. The same data model powered my mobile devices, and that per capita calculation now comes over, and I can use it here. I can ask more questions, saying, hey, that's interesting. Maybe I want to know something else about calls. How about calls by country and I want to know destination, which is basically, what kind of calls are they? Are they domestic? Are they international? And once again, the system is smart enough, knows the visualization to use, but maybe I want something different. It's countries, maybe I want it as a map. And as simple as that, it comes back as a big map, right? And that big map has little pie charts. On each country, I can actually see things such as, hey, what is the ratio of domestic versus international calls, for various other countries across the world. That's something interesting, that some countries have more domestic, some have less domestic. Let's try and understand this a little bit more. So I can go off and ask another question. I can say something like domestic calls by country, and I want to understand maybe versus what sort of duration these calls take place for. But here's interesting. Not only does it get the question, but it knows this particular query as best shown in a scatter plot.
So it understands the English of verses.
That's
right.
right.
Says, hey, scatter plot's a way to help understand.
That's right. And here we see that some other interesting pattern emerge. You can see, for example, that the Pacific Rim countries, in this case, Japan, Hong Kong, people are spending a ton of time doing domestic Skype calls. They're constantly talking 70, 80 minutes, which I always find fascinating.
It's calling their mom.
Maybe they're the keynotes of all I know on Skype. So what's going on here? Like, what's happening? So we have a theory that it maybe has to do with population. So we could say, and population. And type that in, it knows that each population is a bubble size. And suddenly now it gives a nice visualization of that, and you can see it. But it's not population, doesn't seem to be it. So we can go things like maybe it's by platform. Maybe it has to do with what device you use. Maybe you're spending more time on your phone versus, so we can find that out and say, calls by platform in Japan.
Japan is one of those countries up there.
That's right.
One of those,
so the Hong Kong and Japan. And you can see out here that in Japan, people spend a lot of time talking on Skype and Windows. And the theory people have there is that they're doing gaming, World of Warcraft, some social gaming. While they're gaming, they're talking to their buddies, or maybe they're egging them on, or something's going on. So that's a theory that we have. The other thing we can say is, hey, maybe this is different than other countries. So what about comparing to versus China and maybe India? And what do we find there? And what we see is that, again, the system understands my question versus China and India. It lays out 3 graphs together. I never asked it for anything. It just did it. And here you can see that there's a different pattern. China is somewhat similar to Japan, but India is quite different. Many of these devices don't exist in India, and they don't use that much Windows in their Skype calls. So very, very interesting to go in, ask the question, get an answer. And this, is, as I said, it's different. This is very different from anybody else out there, and this is powerful. This is really the power in Power BI. And by the way, if you want to use it, You can do it. Go to powerbi.com, sign up, use it, have a go at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kamal.
Thanks.
Nice job. If you remember Juno at MedAssets, she was striving to increase global reach, right? To increase the ability to share data across all of her employees and even her partners. And so the company embraced Power Query, Power Map, Office 365, Power View, all this stuff in Office 365. And as a result, they're able to have themselves and their partners have greater visibility into the data and the critical business models of their business that they actually share across their entire ecosystem that drives down their supply cost and management cost. One of the things that we're excited about in the space of Power BI is a new contest. So we're announcing a Power BI contest that's aligned to our past analytic conference in May of this coming spring. This is a contest for the community, both for you to participate in and for you to judge, for you to vote on. So you'll be able to get up there and create solutions, and I encourage you, the more creative the better, right? The more interesting data sources, the more interesting correlations between how things work, the better. We can go and compete. The winner will get an all expense paid trip and VIP experience, of course, at the Past Analytics Conference. Top 5 finalists will get a Surface Pro 2 and passes to the conference. And then our top 10 finalists will get Xbox Ones. So go ahead and visit www.facebook.com/MicrosoftBI to go learn about that contest and get going. So today was all about helping you find ways to push the boundaries. Clearly in the BI space, the ability to close that last mile to reach everyone, not BI users, not people who are great in Excel, not people who think in charts, but people just to ask questions, close that last mile, is a significant way of pushing the boundaries. The boundaries are being pushed because of the advent of how the world is changing. Cloud computing, the new architectures, the new ratios, and down at the I/O and cores and memory sizes and all that stuff is changing. The recognition that people have that their business is not just about excellence in their line of business data, but it's about excellence in all information that affects their business. This is important, right? We have shipping companies, of course, using weather data. We have banks using shipping data for loan analysis. We have data now being shared across industries, which is revolutionizing how it is that companies think about what their business even is. And it's going to change how they compete. As big a change that happened when we all made line of business really succeed in the world on today's modern client server microprocessor architecture, as big a change is coming because of the changes in the architecture and the changes that cloud computing is bringing. At Microsoft, we're uniquely positioned, right? We have these incredibly great at-scale cloud assets, and we're building for you a contiguous platform that lets you embrace the power of all of these things. So whether it's the raw data storage, I can basically give you an infinite amount of data processing capability as far as you're concerned in our Azure systems. I can integrate with all your on-prem data. We can provide the ability to let you find the information, process it, and get the value out of it. And we can give you the tools to allow you and your business to close that last mile to get the real insights out of all that information to make the real difference for your business. And that is what's pushing the boundaries. My question for you is, how are you going to go back and push the boundaries? What will you do? Thank you very much.